So I'm going to start talking about section E. This is step 7, which is the cyclic servo setup. The first thing you want to check is that when you add collective pitch, that your collective in your real-time monitor increases with increasing collective pitch. This number increases, and then also your swash plates move up and down. And if this collective decreases with increasing collective pitch, you've got to swap that in your transmitter. That has got to increase with increasing collective pitch. And then it should work out right now, since we've already done all the initial setup stuff, that also your swash plate increases with increasing collective pitch. Next, what you want to do is set up your cyclic servos, and if you've done everything per the instructions and you set up loaded your setup program, then you're not going to have any problem with this. It should work. It isn't working right. You've got something hooked up wrong, either a servo wire or some linkages, and you want to go back and double check all that. But when I move my collective pitch stick, of course we're in normal mode and we've set it up so normal mode keeps the throttles turned off and you can wiggle your sticks as much as you want. And you also make sure your gyro rate hold mode is in rate mode, or things will drift. But when I move my collective pitch stick, let's see if I can get both the cells in the picture again. Can you see that? When I move my collective pitch, I want both swash plates to move up with increasing collective pitch on my stick. So it's just like a regular model helicopter. When I move my yaw stick, if I'm turning left, I want my right swash plate to tilt forward and my left swash plate to tilt back, and opposite for the opposite direction. So when you're yawing, the swash plates run opposite of one another, just like you'd expect. If you're turning left, this swash plate's going to have to tilt forward so the right wing moves forward so the nose yaws left. So you want to make sure that's set up correctly. If any of this stuff is backwards, you should only have to change it in your transmitter. You shouldn't have to use the configurator program at all, or something is wrong. Now when I use pitch or elevator, keep in mind that collective pitch and pitch are two different things. But when I use elevator or pitch, then as I push the nose down, nose forward, the swash plates rock forward, and as I push the nose back, the swash plates rock back, and both swash plates do the exact same thing. And then as I use my aileron or roll, if I go right aileron, this swash plate will drop and the far swash plate will rise, and vice versa. So the swash plates will work opposite one another when I do roll. And if I roll right, this swash plate drops and the other one rises, just as you would expect. So just double check that, and that is more of a check that your transmitter directions are right. And you shouldn't have to make any changes in your configurator, because it's already, you got the defaults in there. Now the next thing we ask you to do is center your servos. So to do that, you need to put your stick position at the 3/4 point on collective pitch. So sometimes I think the easiest way to find that is go into your throttle curve. And you can see that bar, and you can find 3/4 on that bar. You can also look at the graduations on your stick, but this seems to get there a little bit easier. So you end up with down here you have 4 boxes to adjust the left forward, the left aft, the right forward, and the right aft. And these are servos, so when you adjust these servo positions, the left, for this one, the left forward servo should be moving. The first thing you want to do is use the star wheel or the mechanical adjustment to get it close, so they shouldn't be more than about 5 or 10 degrees off at most. Left forward servo, I'm going to adjust it till that arm just becomes square with the aircraft. You see, it's just, you want, you know, this arm to be horizontal, a perpendicular angle with this link, or just at a normal with that link. And that's all you do, is just make that little adjustment, and that adjustment's been made. The left aft servo, make a little adjustment to that one. It's a little harder to see. Okay, the right forward servo. The forward servo is your servo on the inboard side. Tune that up just a little bit to make it. Okay, so I've got all those perfect. I'm going to save it to the device again. And I'm going to move on. So the next thing we want you to do is check that when you move your collective pitch stick, you get 4.5 inches of travel of collective pitch. So what I do there is put my collective pitch stick all the way down. I'll measure that distance. The swash plate is off. I'll zero that on my caliper. I'll go all the way up. I'll measure it again. And you're probably going to be close at 4.45. So you make that adjustment. That's pretty close. But you make that adjustment in the conversion curves. And we have this master CP volume, so the master collective pitch volume, and I just want to turn that. That sets up your collective pitch. You just want to make sure you have a full 4.5, and then after you do that, put your stick back at the 3/4 point, your collective pitch stick, and just go through and just double check the centering of all your servos. They're usually, well, these will be right on because I didn't change it at all. But if you change it a lot, then you may have to recenter those servos. So save the device again. And the pitch governor, is fairly easy. You just, what we want to do is fire up the throttles. And you want to make sure that none of your wires are kind of dragging anywhere on your motor or anything first. This all looks clean. And you should just be able to pull your stunt switch all the way into stunt 3. Now, one of your motors is going to be running backwards. And whatever motor that is, it's the right one. So then you just swap. I just swap the red and the yellow lead, and that motor will run the correct direction. So then you want to open your throttles up and just read what RPM over here in your input section, what your RPM is. So that's 37,500. Looked like both of them were pretty consistent. Just going to check my throttle curve here. So mine set at 100 all the way across, and I mentioned to you guys earlier that I kind of like that lower speed setting that's in the program, the Castle program. And so I'm going to turn each one of these points down to the 75%, which will drop to that lower RPM we did in the setup. So we set up 3 RPMs in that Castle. Basically, all you're doing with this is assigning an RPM based on what you typed in the Castle setup, and the exact position doesn't do anything. It's just that when you're around or above 70% and below 100%, it's going to run in the middle RPM that you set. So I'll just set it for 75 because I know that's between the two. And I'll fire the throttles back up, and I'll see where they stabilize out. Yeah, they're really close to 37,000, but we want to set this RPM setting, and this is the setting that the pitch governor uses to determine that it's needs to start letting off on the collective pitch, and it needs to be, I've been running this about 400 RPM below, so maybe 36,600. That's about 400 RPM at the lowest RPM. The other thing you want to do is set this set point, and this set point basically disables the pitch governor when you're below this collective pitch setting, and I usually set that at the 3/4 stick position. So I'll look at my throttle curve again, look for 3/4 on that stick, and then I'll hit this set point, and that'll memorize that point. Whenever you're below this point, your pitch governor is disabled and won't work, and whenever you're below this RPM, your pitch governor is also disabled and won't activate. So this one I just leave set at 20,000. Your motor poles have already been set for you, and here's your pitch gains, and we'll adjust your pitch governor gains here later on after we do some flying. The conversion curves come in, they're all set up already. We're adding some collective pitch here as you convert. We've looked at this one here, and these are all set up also for the initial flight test. Gain curves, same thing. Just double check that this as you swap from hold mode to rate mode, that is following your transmitter, and then it's also following the lights on the gyro, and you'll be good for that. And that's all pre-set up. Landing gear, I don't have landing gear on this ship, so we'll talk about that when we go over the landing gear upgrade kit. And systems options, we talked about that. You just want to make sure you're at the latest software. So I'm going to save this to the device, and I'm also going to save the configuration. Okay, so I've saved the configuration.